The second item I wanted to touch base on is to remind the council of our important role as a quasi-judicial body when we look at land use, which includes rezonings. The rules and the laws in the state of Kansas and by the Supreme Court have made it very clear that our role is to determine if the requested land use is appropriate or not appropriate. The requested project is appropriate or not appropriate. It is not our role to diagnose the applicant, to challenge his financials. It is not our role to attack applicants. Our role is to say, I either support the applicant or I do not support the applicant. It really is. There's nothing wrong with not supporting a application. We all have been elected to represent our constituencies and represent our community in these matters, but it doesn't have to be personal. It's a matter of, do I support it or do I not support it? And the reasons that I do one or the other. That's it. So.
Thank you, Mr. Ebel.
Mayor, I'm sorry. Mayor, I have a point in response.
Let me get through the consent agenda.
I understand, but I respect that. But if I could have a point in response to my colleague, Councilman Skoog, if you allow.
He had a report, and now we'll move on to the consent agenda, Mr. Council, you have before you a consent agenda. Does anybody like the consent agenda?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Sublotnik, I've got several questions. Most of them, as Mr. Cardigan said, have been asked. This is kind of an unusual situation for the council. We have a reputation for supporting the public schools, and to the best of my knowledge, everybody since I've been on the council has sent their children to public schools with the exception of one person. So that support is there. But a couple things. As you heard Mr. Skoog talk about at the beginning of the meeting, we can't talk about financing, and don't want to talk about financing here. But when you had your bond issue this time a year ago, was this gym specifically mentioned as one of the topical issues to inform the voters voting on that bond issue that this would be one of the projects?
It was.
Okay, so technically they could have been notified about a year ago. Okay. Second, I'm looking at option D, and it appears to me that if you moved it to the left, and I think that's kind of southwest, about 50%, you could have access to the hallways, access to the locker rooms, not infringe on anything, and get away from moving the road, and probably get away from the existing sewer line. Is that an option?
It wouldn't get us away from the existing sewer line. If we moved it, I'm going to call it left as we're looking at it, because that sewer line runs left to right about in the middle of this right here. I think the end of it is somewhere in the vicinity of just to the upper right of where that C is, if I remember right.
Okay, so you would avoid that with the construction you're proposing?
Correct.
Okay.